Hey, how you doing? Let's paint a picture. You're grinding 10 hours a day in your car, dodging traffic, passengers, and potholes. You're tired, gas is $1.80 a liter, and then boom, you get a push notification. Ontario is changing the law for gig workers. Now hold up, is this a win for drivers? Will Uber have to pay more? Or is this just another headline that looks good but changes nothing? Today, we're diving into what Ontario's new gig worker legislation might actually mean, especially for Uber drivers. So, what's this law everyone's talking about? Ontario is cooking up legislation aimed at giving gig workers more rights. We're talking pay transparency, better dispute resolution, and possibly even minimum earnings protections. Think of Uber drivers, DoorDashers, Instacart heroes, all the folks the apps call independent contractors. Premier Doug Ford's government already passed a $15 per hour minimum earning floor for time worked. But now they're eyeing stronger, broader rules that look a lot like what BC just put in place. But before we go west, let's break down what Ontario is considering. Here's what's on the table. Guaranteed earnings floor. Drivers would be paid at least a set minimum for time engaged in work, like driving a passenger, but not for time waiting between trips. Transparent pay breakdowns. Clear receipts of how much you made, how long you worked, and what fees the platform took. Job protection. Uber or DoorDash can't deactivate you without a proper appeal or explanation. No more random ghostings, more control over schedules. Drivers might get better protections from penalties when they decline certain gigs. So basically, it's a move toward making app-based work more secure, but still not full employment status. Let's keep that in mind. Guaranteed earnings floor, but only while engaged. What it means. Drivers would be guaranteed a minimum hourly rate, but only during engaged time. That's the time from when a ride or delivery is accepted to when it's completed. For example, if the minimum is $16 per hour and a trip took 15 minutes, you'd be guaranteed at least $4 for that trip, even if the fare was lower. The catch, it does not include waiting time between rides or deliveries. So if you spend 40 minutes waiting between gigs, that time is unpaid, even though it's part of your workday. Why it matters. It's an attempt to bring stability to pay, but critics say it understates real working hours, making the earnings floor misleading. Transparent pay breakdowns. What it means. Gig apps like Uber, Skip the Dishes, or DoorDash would be legally required to show how much you earned from each trip, how long you worked, how much the company took in fees or commissions, and any bonuses or surges. Why it matters. This helps drivers track earnings versus expenses more clearly. It makes it harder for platforms to quietly adjust rates or change the algorithm without users noticing. This could help drivers budget better and make smarter decisions about when and where to work. Job protection and deactivation rights. What it means. Under current systems, drivers can be deactivated or fired by the app with no real explanation, even for things like a single low rating, passenger complaints with no evidence, or algorithmic errors. Under the proposed rules, companies would be required to give a clear reason for deactivation, offer a fair appeals process, and possibly allow reinstatement if the case is found invalid. Why it matters. This addresses a major concern: job security in the gig world. It treats workers more like actual humans and less like disposable app icons. It also sets a precedent for due process, which gig workers haven't had. More control over schedules. What does it mean? Ontario may restrict companies from penalizing drivers who decline low-paying gigs, long-distance trips, or gigs outside of their preferred working areas. Drivers would gain more freedom to choose when and where they work, and they could decline gigs without facing algorithmic punishment like being shown fewer trips. Why does it matter? Right now, many apps quietly punish drivers who reject too many trips, lowering their priority, reducing future offers, and so on. These protections aim to return control to the worker, making the work model more flexible and fair. How is BC doing it? Now let's hop across the Rockies. BC passed a first-in-Canada law that gives gig workers a minimum wage of $20.88 per hour while actively working, compensation for vehicle expenses per kilometer driven, a fair process before deactivation, and the right to join a worker association or unionize. It's not full employee status either, but it's a step up from where things were. So far, drivers in BC are reporting mixed results. Some say the protections give peace of mind, while others argue that Uber and apps are reducing trip availability and making it harder to hit bonuses. Bottom line, the law is still new, and the kinks are still being worked out. Pros and cons for Ontario drivers. Let's get real. What does this mean for you if you're an Ontario Uber driver? Pros: predictable minimum pay means less stress. You can challenge unfair deactivations. More transparency allows for better hustle planning. It could reduce exploitation from apps, shifting all the risk to drivers. Cons: you're still not an employee. No EI, no sick days. Apps might cut incentives, bonuses, or job flexibility. It doesn't count the time you're waiting, only driving, so you're still eating unpaid downtime. It's a bit like giving you boots but still asking you to walk through the snow. What's next? Ontario is consulting with stakeholders, drivers, tech companies, and unions to shape the final law. Expect it to hit the books within the year. But pressure's building. Some groups are demanding full employee classification, while others are pushing for a middle ground. So, is it a win, a half win, or just political PR with no engine under the hood? You decide, but here's the deal: gig work isn't going anywhere. The question is, will it keep working for the people or just for the platforms? Drop us your take at Hey How You Doin' Pod. Are you an Uber driver? Have these changes helped or hurt you? And if you like this episode, share it with a friend, a driver, or that one cousin who's always in traffic. Until next time, stay safe, stay smart, and hey, how you doing?